Welcome to Christian Answers. My name is Pastor Jeff Short, and today we're going to be talking about Alyssa Milano reveals she had 2 abortions in 1 year and was absolutely the right choice, according to the HuffPost. According to Alyssa Milano, she had 2 abortions in 1 year, and she says it was absolutely the right choice. So that automatically, right off the bat, sounds like something's wrong. There is something wrong. Her attitude is wrong about this. And we're going to talk about it. I'm going to read from the HuffPost article that just appeared last month, where actress Alyssa Milano revealed that she had 2 abortions. 2 abortions. And not only 2 abortions, but 2 abortions in 1 year. And so she's going to try to explain, rationalize why she thinks that's okay. And we're going to get into that article from a Christian viewpoint. From a Christian standpoint, abortion is wrong. It says in the Bible, thou shalt not kill. The 10 Commandments, the actual word there is thou shalt not murder. So it's even stronger. And so we want to talk about this so that we're not just blown about by every wind of doctrine that comes down the cultural river. And we see a lot of pollution coming down the cultural river these days. And we want to just jump in and talk about this, help people process all this stuff. Because after all, there's a lot of stuff that's taking place in society right now that it's almost like every day. I remember a time when about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, that I would actually scour the articles in the newspapers and on the internet, and I would actually find 1 or 2 topics every week that I could talk about and address from a Christian standpoint. Now, it's impossible to even cover the topics in 1 day that are challenging the Judeo-Christian moral standards. So we're getting bombarded, we're getting overwhelmed in a sense right now because we have so many attacks against the Judeo-Christian biblical ethic. And that's exactly what it is. We have people on a routine basis attacking the Judeo-Christian ethic. And one of the attacks is abortion. Abortion directly attacks the Judeo-Christian ethic, and we want to talk about it today. So let's get into the article that appeared in the HuffPost, which is a super ultra-liberal leftist publication, and it appeared October 21st, 2019. And it says, Alyssa Milano reveals she had 2 abortions in 1 year. It was absolutely the right choice, she says. My reasons for having an abortion are real. They surround me every day, the actress said. So, yeah, that's one way to put it. They surround you. You might also say that the cries of the blood of those children cries up from the ground every day as a reminder of the violent act that you performed against them, if you want to put it in a more correct and factual, realistic way. The blood of those children cries up from the ground, to use the biblical analogy of the first murder found in Genesis, where the blood of Abel cries up from the ground to remind Cain that he had committed murder when he killed his brother Abel. Let's get into this article here in the HuffPost. It says, actress Alyssa Milano opens up this week about having 2 abortions in 1993 when her career was just taking off. So already we hear about this actress's career. Now, why would the career thing be brought into the picture right off the bat? Why would there be mention of a career? Well, because that is probably why she had those abortions. She put her career ahead of her own children. Now, this is common in the world of parenting. You have probably most of the Hollywood actors and actresses in Hollywood today put their careers ahead of their family. They put their careers ahead of their marriage. That's why there's so many divorces in Hollywood. That's why there's so many broken homes. That's why Elizabeth Taylor has 8, 9 husbands over the course of her lifetime before she died, because she put her career over her marriage and family. And so it is no surprise that an actress like Alyssa Milano would see her career as more important than her children. And if you can somehow convince yourself that these aren't even children and that these aren't even worthy of being put above a career, then it would be easy to do this. And so this is what she says. But it's interesting that you have career brought into the story behind this so quickly. And there's no accident, because her career was probably the reason why she decided to end the life of her children, her 2 children, at her young age. She goes on, I knew at that time I was not equipped to be a mother, and so I chose to have an abortion. The actress said in Tuesday episode of her podcast, Sorry, Not Sorry. I chose, it was my choice, and I was absolutely right choice for me. I hear a lot of I, and me. So there's a lot of the first person pronoun, a lot of the selfish pronoun. It's all about her. It's all about, look at what she says. I knew at that time I was not equipped to be a mother. Let's stop it right there. If you get pregnant, you are a mother. So you can't go back and say, oh, I don't think this is the right time to be a mother. I don't think I'm ready to be a mother. That question has to be asked further on back. If you are engaging in activities that produce children, you are ipso facto saying, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for motherhood. I'm ready for everything that follows from this. So this is one of the consequences of the sexual revolution in the 60s, where there was a separation between sexuality and procreation. There was a separation, and they tried to, with the birth control pill, separate sex from childhood, sex from reproduction. And so she's trying to do that here. She's saying, I knew at that time I was not equipped to be a mother. Well, you're physically equipped to be a mother. That's why you became pregnant. You're physically equipped to have a child. That's why you're pregnant. And so if you're physically equipped to have a child, you are ready to be a mother, because you already are a mother. It's not like, well, I don't think I can become a mother. You're already a mother. You already have a child. And now it's just a matter of being the good and decent person and taking care of that child and protecting that child and nurturing that child and being a responsible mother. Now, there are irresponsible parents. There are irresponsible mothers who have their child and then neglect the child, okay? And society looks down and frowns upon them, as should be. You know, we want that good, healthy, positive peer pressure to let mothers and fathers know. Some fathers try to shirk their duty of being a father. And so good, healthy social peer pressure will put pressure on the father and the mother to live up their responsibilities as parents and raise and nurture that child. So she already is a mother when she becomes pregnant. It's not a matter of, I don't think I'm ready to become a mother. You already are a mother if you're pregnant. And then it's just a decision as to whether you are going to be a responsible mother or an irresponsible mother. So she's trying to, after the fact, after she's already a mother, she's trying to say, well, I don't think I'm up to being a mother. Well, if you're wanting to take that logic to its full conclusion, then the only decent thing to do would say, okay, I'm going to have the child and then put it up for adoption because I'm not ready to raise that child. You don't ever want to take the sinful, evil, wicked choice of saying, okay, I'm not ready to raise a child, so I'm going to kill the child. Murder is not an option in any decent civilization. It's certainly not a biblical Christian option, and it doesn't even follow in the Judeo-Christian tradition of the Western world. So she is actually doing something that is unheard of, unspeakable, unthinkable, only up until maybe 50 years ago, and saying it publicly as if this is something that she's proud of, that she stands up proudly and says, yes, I had an abortion, I'm not ashamed of it, and I would have it again, and so forth. That is something that it might have taken place. It no doubt did take place 50 some years ago, 100 years ago, but the woman would never, ever stand up in public and admit to a crime of murder, a child murder. It just, it shows the depravity of our culture, and it shows the sick and twisted thinking of the Hollywood elites. And so we have to be aware of the fact that these movies are being produced and they're starring people who are really degenerate humans. They are not civilized, decent citizens. They are degenerate, immoral people, and unfortunately they're the heroes and the role models of our youth culture today. She says, I knew at the time I was not equipped to be a mother, so I chose to have an abortion. I chose. It was my choice. Yes, you chose, and you made it your choice, but that doesn't make it right. Society, Roe v. Wade, 1973, Supreme Court justices said you had a choice. That doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it real. They said it was the case that you have a choice, but according to the laws of God and the decency and morality, you don't have that choice. You do not have a choice to murder your baby. That is a moral atrocity. It goes on and says, further in the article, Milano said she became pregnant twice within months of one another. In her early 20s, right as her career was taking off, although she was taking birth control pills. So again, the career aspect is brought into this. Now, first of all, it sounds like she has made her, quote, career, her success, her Hollywood acting endeavor, her God, her idol. It's clearly the most important thing to her in her life because she's mentioning it all the time. My career, my Hollywood career, my career. It was just taking off, and so on and so forth. Under a normal, moral, rational thinking process, career would be important, but it's down the list of priorities. If you have a child, your child is more important than your career. If you're married, your marriage, your husband is more important than your career. Your family is more important than your career. That's only rational. That's only logical. That's simple, basic moral priorities, spiritual priorities, moral priorities. This is understood by everyone. It's pretty much self-evident. And yet she's bringing in career all the time. And it's clearly because she has an idol in her life, and her idol is her career. Now, this is common in Hollywood. Again, why does Elizabeth Taylor have 9 or 10 husbands in her lifetime? Well, clearly her career was placed above her marriage, and she didn't work at it hard enough, or she didn't choose her men carefully enough because she was preoccupied with her career in Hollywood and so on and so forth. And this is common in Hollywood. A lot of times today, they don't even bother to get married. You know, it's kind of a quaint idea, marriage. They don't even bother that. They just move in, shack up, live in sin. and then they break up, and then they do whatever they do. When they get a new movie, they move across the country to shoot the movie, and the marriage falls apart. And this is common in Hollywood. It doesn't make it right, though. That's the problem. Here's one of the problems with actors and actresses when they talk. They have this false authority that people listen to them. It's a weird phenomenon that happens because they're on this big screen. You can go to the movie theaters and you see this huge person, and they're bigger than life. And you see them on television, you see them on the internet, and they're all over the place, and they're always dressed up. Their hair is right, and everything is right, and they look like perfect people, and they're given this authority that they don't deserve. We don't, in the real good level-headed thinking, no one would listen to Alyssa Milano on anything pertaining to morality, because they would say, oh, she's just an actress. Why should we listen to her? But she's given this authority that we need to expose. These are the worst moral examples, and they're put up as the leaders of society. Okay, she goes on. Milano said she became pregnant twice within a month of one another in her early 20s. She was taking the birth control pill. They tell you that the pill is 99% effective at preventing pregnancies, and yet a few months later I found out that I was pregnant again. So science fails her. Chemistry fails her. The modern technology fails her. It wasn't her fault. It was the modern technology. She wants to shift the blame and say, wow, the pill failed me. No, you failed you. You shouldn't have been doing what you were doing. You were sleeping around, being immoral, violating the moral commands of God, and even the Western standards. I mean, the only girls that would sleep around like that were the slutty kind, the low moral, degenerate kind. This is only 50 years ago. And now today, it's common. Sadly, it's common. But the church and Christian leaders need to continue to hold up the standard of God and say, look, this behavior, what she was doing, wasn't the pill that failed her. She failed her. She failed to live up to basic human decency. And if you sleep around and you're living an immoral life, you're going to get pregnant. That's what happens for women. If you do that kind of stuff, you're going to get pregnant, because sex was made for marriage. It was made for a lifetime commitment. And if you try to bypass that, you're going to run into trouble. And she ran into trouble. It's not the technology that failed her. It's not the pill. It's not the chemistry. It's her. She needs to own that up. It was her dumb, stupid, foolish activity that got her pregnant. And now she's going to make another stupid decision, and that is to end the life, kill the baby in the womb, kill her son or daughter. That's a terrible decision. So I had to do what I knew I had to do to prevent pregnancy. So I did. So I had done what I knew to do to prevent pregnancy and was still pregnant. So once again, I made the right decision to end that pregnancy. Who says you made the right decision? Again, based on what standard of rightness? She's making moral statements here, but she's not backing them up. She's not justifying them. She's just saying, I made the right decision. Says who? Who says you made the right decision? You killed your child. You murdered your offspring. That's a right decision? By whose standards? By what standards? Satan himself? I mean, the only standard I can think of that would conclude that that was a right decision was the devil. He would definitely want you to do that, but not God and not the Lord. And no standard of right would want you to do that. It was not an easy choice. It was not something I wanted, but it was something that I needed, like most health care is. Killing your baby is not health care. Murdering your offspring is not health care. Back in ancient Rome, 2,000 years ago, parents, if they didn't want their baby, after it was born, they would just leave it out in an open field and let the dogs and the wolves tear it apart. Was that health care for them? Was that a matter of basic health care? No, there's nothing to do with health care. A pregnancy is a normal, natural thing. And today, especially, it's not a matter of health care. We have hospitals, we have cleanliness and sanitized facilities, best medical care available. You could have had your child, put it up for adoption, or could have had a child and raised that child. Instead, you decided to murder your baby, kill your child. That is awful. That's terrible. And all your justifying and rationalizing is not going to make it right. It says, Milano, known best for her work on TV show Charmed, has become an outspoken advocate for women since the Me Too movement took off in 2017. Okay, so if you're an advocate for women, then you need to be teaching women to have their children when they're pregnant and not murder their offspring. So how can you be an advocate for women when you're trying to encourage them to murder? That's not an advocate for women. That kind of advocacy should be locked up almost. You should be put in jail for promoting murder, promoting baby killing. It's an awful thing. And she's put it up on a pedestal for her women's rights. Since then, she has repeatedly pushed for gender equality in politics, reproductive health, and more. Okay, the standard stuff. Although she knew her decision to get her abortion was the right choice, says who? It was still devastating, Milano said in a podcast. Why is it devastating? Okay, if it's not a baby, if it's just a clump of tissue, then removing it is not anything to have devastating in your life. If it is a baby, and it is your child, and you're killing it, then that's devastating. So you almost are admitting that it is a baby and a human life that you murdered, and you're calling that devastating, and it is. It's not just devastating, it's wicked. She says, I was raised Catholic and was suddenly put in conflict with my faith. That's right. That's a good thing. She continued, a faith I was coming to realize empowered only men to make every single decision about what was allowed and what was not allowed. So now she's blaming men. You see, when you sin and you do something wrong and you violate the laws of God and you commit a terrible crime, you're looking for someone to roll this over on. And for Alyssa Milano, the actress, she's going to roll this crime that she committed twice. She killed her 2 children. She's going to roll that over on the patriarchy. She's going to blame men for this. Because she says right here, she was raised Catholic, but she feels that was guilt that was put on her by men. A faith that was coming to realize empowered only men. Okay, so she's criticizing Christianity. She's attacking Christian faith in order to justify her violence against her child, her murder of her children. So she'll go far as just discounting and rejecting Jesus and the Christian faith in order to justify her immorality. Milano's podcast discussion comes in the wake of several states passing abortion bans of extreme restrictions. States include Alabama, Georgia, Ohio, Missouri have all banned abortion as early as the first trimester. Alabama passed the most extreme of the new laws in May, banning all abortions from the time a person is known to be pregnant and providing no exceptions for rape and incest. Also in May, Georgia passed a heartbeat bill which bans abortion around 6 weeks, a time when many women do not know they're pregnant. Even though they may not know it, but they are. This recent assault against women's body, Milano said, has forced her to reflect on what she believes she would have lost if she had not had those 2 abortions. What she would have lost, but those 2 lives would have gained life. So again, it's all about her. It's all about the self. I would not have my children, my beautiful, perfect, loving, kind, inquisitive children, who have a mother who was so very, very ready for them. I would not have my career. I would not have the ability or platform to use to fight against oppression with all my heart. I would never have met my amazing husband, David, whose steadfast and immeasurable love for me sustains me through those terrifying years. Okay, she would not have her children. I guess she's talking about the children she has now. I would not have had my children. Well, what about the 2 children that you killed? You don't have them. Their blood is on your hands because you murdered them. Most of all, Milano added, she would not have the freedom to be herself and make the choices she did that got her to where she is today. So what is she today? She's a murderess. She deserves to be in jail, locked up for the deliberate taking of human life, innocent human life. And she's saying she wouldn't be who she is today, and she wouldn't be free to be herself. Well, that's what law does. Law restricts us from being who we are, because by nature we have inherited original sin from Adam and Eve. We're sinners born from the womb, and we need to be restrained by the influences of a godly society. And would to God that someone, somewhere, some law, some policy would have prevented her from killing those babies, because they'd be alive today. They would be in their 20s or 30s, and they would have been human beings with life. And now Alyssa Milano has ended their life, and they can't live and be themselves and be who they want to be. So we see a very selfish attitude right here. We need to look at it. The final sentence is, my reasons for having an abortion are real, she said. They surround me every day. Yes, the guilt of taking the life of your own offspring will be with you forever. And only the forgiveness of Jesus Christ can heal that wound, but it only comes after you repent of your sins. You have to look into the mirror and say, I was wrong. I sinned. And God will come and forgive you through Christ, but you need to repent first of all. So this is a very sick example of an actress who has a very selfish attitude, and we need to continue to fight against this abortion plague, and hopefully through our prayers we'll see this abortion end in our lifetime. Wouldn't that be great? Well, we'll see you back next week on another edition of Christ in Culture. God bless.